Hi, we're at the shop.
Nice. Hey there. Look, we're going to pick up with Riding in the Cars, another chapter in By the Shores of Silver Lake, written by Laura Ingalls Wilder. I hope you've had a chance to check this out at the library. It's a good one to read along with. So let's start with Riding in the Cars. When the time came, Laura could hardly believe it was real. The weeks and months had been endless, and now they were gone. Plum Creek and the house and all the slopes and fields she knew so well were gone. She would never see them again. The last crowded days of packing, cleaning, scrubbing, washing and ironing, and the last-minute flurry of bathing and dressing were over. Clean and starched and dressed up in the morning of a weekday, they sat in a row on the bench in the waiting room while Ma bought the tickets. In an hour, they would be riding on the railroad cars. The two satchels stood by the sunny platform outside the waiting room door. Laura kept an eye on them and on Grace, as Ma told her to. Grace sat still in her little starched white lawn dress and bonnet, her feet in small new shoes sticking straight out. At the ticket window, Ma carefully counted money out of her pocketbook. Traveling on the train cost money. They had not paid anything to travel in the wagon, and this was a beautiful morning to be riding in the wagon along new roads. It was a September day, and small clouds were hurrying in the sky. All the girls were in school now. They would see the train go roaring by and know that Laura was riding in it. Trains went faster than horses can run. They went so terribly fast that often they were wrecked. You never knew what might happen to you on a train. Ma put the tickets inside her mother-of-pearl pocketbook and carefully snapped shut its little steel clasp. She looked so nice in her dark delaine dress with white lace collar and cuffs. Her hat was black straw with a narrow turned-up brim and a white spray of lilies of the valley standing up at one side of the crown. She sat down and took Grace on her lap. Now there was nothing to do but wait. They had come an hour early to be sure not to miss the train. Laura smoothed her dress. It was brown calico sprinkled with red flowers. Her hair hung down her back in long brown braids, and a red ribbon bow tied around their ends together. There was a red ribbon around the crown of her hat, too. Mary's dress was gray calico with sprigs of blue flowers. Her wide-brimmed hat had a blue ribbon on it, and under the hat her poor short hair was held back from her face by a blue ribbon tied around her head. Her lovely blue eyes did not see anything, but she said, "Don't fidget, Carrie. You'll muss your dress." Laura craned to look at Carrie sitting beyond Mary. Carrie was small and thin in pink calico with pink ribbons on her brown braids and her hat. She flushed miserably because Mary found fault with her, and Laura was going to say, "You come over by me, Carrie, and fidget all you want. We're reading a story for our audiobook, okay?" Thank you, love. Just then Mary's face lighted up with joy, and she said, "Ma, Laura's fidgeting too. I can tell she is without seeing." "So she is, Mary," Ma said, and Mary smiled in satisfaction. Laura was ashamed that that in her thoughts she'd been cross with Mary. She did not say anything. She got up and was passing in front of Ma without saying a word. Ma had to remind her, say, "Excuse me, Laura." "Excuse me, Ma." "Excuse me, Mary," Laura said politely, and she sat down beside Carrie. Carrie felt safer when she was between Laura and Mary. It's like Miriam when we go to the RV, isn't it? Yeah. Carrie was really afraid of going on a train. Of course, she'd never say that she was frightened, but Laura knew. "Ma?" Carrie said timidly. "Pa will surely meet us, won't he?" "He's coming to meet us," Ma said. "He has to drive in from the camp, and it will take him all day. We're going to wait for him in Tracy." Will he get there before night, Ma?" Carrie asked. Ma said she hoped so. You cannot tell what might happen when you go traveling on a train. It's not like starting out all together in a wagon. So Laura said bravely, "Maybe Pa's got our homestead picked out already." "You guess what it's like, Carrie, and then I'll guess." They could not talk very well because all the time they were waiting and listening for the train. At long last, Mary said she thought she heard it. Then Laura heard a faint, faraway hum. Her heart beat so fast she could hardly listen to Ma. Ma lifted Grace on her arm, and with her other hand she took tight hold of Carrie's. She said, "Laura, you come behind me with Mary. Be careful now." The train was coming louder. They stood by the satchels on the platform and saw it coming. Laura did not know how they would get the satchels on the train. Ma's hands were full, and Laura had to hold on to Mary. The engine's round front window glared in the sunlight like a huge eye. The smokestack flared upward to a wide top, and black smoke rolled up from it. A sudden streak of white shot up through the smoke. Then the whistle screamed, a long, wild scream. The roaring thing came rushing straight at them all, swelling bigger and bigger, enormous, shaking everything with noise. Then the worst was over. It had not hit them. It was roaring by them on thick, black, big wheels. Bumps and crashes ran along the freight cars and flat cars, and they stopped moving. The train was there, and they had to get on it. "Laura," Ma said sharply, "you and Mary be careful." "Yes, Ma, we are," said Laura. She guided Mary anxiously one step at a time across the boards of the platform behind Ma's skirt. When the skirt stopped, Laura stopped Mary. Then they had come to the last car at the end of the train. Steps went up into it, and a strange man in a dark suit and a cap helped Ma climb up with them, with Grace in her arms. "Whoopsie daisy," he said, swinging Carrie up beside Ma. Then he said, "Them your satchels, ma'am?" "Yes, please," said Ma. "Come, Laura and Mary." "Who is he, Ma?" Carrie asked, while Laura helped Mary up the steps. They were crowded in a small place. The man came pushing cheerfully past them with the satchels and shouldered open the door of the car. They followed him between two rows of red velvet seats full of people. The sides of the car were almost solidly made of windows. The car was almost as light as outdoors, and chunks of sunshine slanted across the people and the red velvet. Ma sat down on one velvet seat and plumped Grace on her lap. She told Carrie to sit beside her. She said, "Laura, you and Mary sit in the seats ahead of me." Laura guided Mary in, and they sat down. The velvet seat was springy. Laura wanted to bounce on it, but she must behave properly. She whispered, "Mary, the seats are red velvet." "I see," Mary said, stroking the seat with her fingers. "What's that in front of us?" "It's the high back of the seat in front, and it's red velvet too," Laura told her. The engine whistled, and they both jumped. The train was getting ready to go. Laura knelt up in the seat to see Ma. Ma looked calm and so pretty in her dark dress with her white lace collar and the sweet, tiny white flowers on her hat. "What is it, Laura?" Ma asked. Laura asked, "Who is that man?" "The brakeman," Ma said. "Now sit down," and the train jerked, jolting her backwards. Laura's chin bumped hard in the back seat, and her hat slid on her head. Again the train jerked, not so badly this time, and then it began to shiver, and the depot moved. "It's going!" Carrie cried out. The shivering grew faster and louder, and the depot slid backward, and under the car the wheels began to beat time. A rub-a-dub-dub, a rub-a-dub-dub. The wheels went faster and faster. The lumber yard and the back of the church and the front of the schoolhouse went by, and that was the last of the town. The whole car swayed now, in time to the clickety-clackety underneath it, and the black smoke blew by in melting rolls. A telegraph wire swooped down beyond the window. It did not really swoop, but it seemed to swoop because it sagged between the poles. It was fastened to green glass knobs that glittered in the sunshine and went dark when the smoke rolled over them. Beyond the wire, glass fields and fields, and scattered farmhouses and barns went by. They went so fast that Laura could not really look at them before they were gone. In 1 hour, that train would go 20 miles, as far as the horses traveled in a whole day. The door opened and a tall man came inside. He wore a blue coat with brass buttons and a cap with "Conductor" in letters across its front. At every seat he stopped and took tickets. He punched round holes in the tickets with the small machine in his hand. Ma gave him 3 tickets. Carrie and Grace were so little that they could ride on the train without paying. The conductor went on, and Laura said low, "Oh, Mary, so many shining brass buttons on his coat, and it says 'Conductor' right across the front of his cap." "And he is tall," Mary said. "His voice is high up." Laura tried to tell her how fast the telegraph poles were going by. She said, "The wires sag down between them and swoops up again." Then she counted them. 1, oh, 2, oh, 3. That's how fast they're going. I can tell it's fast. I can feel it, Mary said happily. On the dreadful morning when Mary could not see even sunlight full in her eyes, Pa said that Laura must see for her. He had said, "Your 2 eyes are quick enough, and your tongue, if you will use them, for Mary." And Laura had promised, so she tried to be eyes for Mary, and it was seldom that Mary need ask her, "See out loud for me, Laura, please." Both sides of the car are windows close together, Laura said now. Every window is one big sheet of glass, and even the strips of wood between the windows shine like glass. They're so polished. "Yes, I see." And Mary felt over the glass and touched the shining wood with her fingertips. The sunshine comes slanting in the south windows in wide strips over the red velvet seats and the people. Corners of sunshine fall on the floor and keep reaching out and going back. Up above the windows, the shiny wood curves in from the walls on both sides, and all along the middle of the ceiling there's a higher place. It has little walls of tiny, long, low windows, and you can see blue sky outside them. But outside the big windows on both sides, the country's going by. The stubble fields are yellow, the haystacks are by the barns, and the little trees are yellow and red in clumps around the houses. "Now I will see the people," Laura went on muttering. In front of us is a head with a bald spot on top and side whiskers. He's reading a newspaper. He doesn't look out the windows at all. Farther along are 2 young men with their hats on. They're holding a big white map and looking at it and talking about it. I guess they're going to look for a homestead too. Their hands are roughed and calloused, so they're good workers. And farther ahead there's a woman with the bright yellow hair and, oh Mary, the biggest red velvet hat with pink roses. Just then someone went by and Laura looked up. She went on, "A thin man with bristly eyebrows and long mustache, and an Adam's apple just went by. He can't walk straight, the train's going so fast. I wonder what... Oh, Mary, he's turning a little handle on the wall at the edge of the car, and there's water coming out. The water's pouring right into a tin cup. Now he's drinking it." His Adam apple bobs. He's filling the cup again. He turns the handle, and the water comes right out. How do you suppose it, Mary? He set the cup on the little shelf. Now he's coming back. After the man had gone by, Laura made up her mind. She asked Ma if she could get a drink of water, and Ma said she might, so she started out. She could not walk straight. The lurching car made her sway and grab at the seat backs all the way. But she got to the end of the car and looked at the shining handle and spout, and the little shelf under them that held the bright tin cup. She turned the handle just a little, and white water came out of the spout. She turned the handle back, and the water stopped. Under the cup was a little hole, put there to carry water, any water that spilled. Laura had never seen anything so fascinating. It was all so neat and marvelous that she wanted to fill the cup again and again, but that would waste the water. So after she drank, she only filled the cup part way in order not to spill it, and she carried it very carefully to Ma. Carrie drank, and Grace. They did not want any more. Ma and Mary were not very thirsty. So Laura carried the cup back to its place. All the time the train was rushing on and the country rushing back, and the car swaying, but this time Laura did not touch one seat as she passed. She could walk almost as well as the conductor. Surely no one suspected that she'd never been on a train before. Then a boy came running along the aisle with a basket in his arm. He stopped and showed it to everyone, and some people took things out of it and gave him money. When he reached Laura, she saw the basket was full of boxes of candy and long sticks of white chewing gum. The boy showed them to Ma and said, "Nice fresh candy, ma'am. Chewing gum." Ma shook her head, but the boy opened a box and showed the colored candy. Carrie's breath, made an eager sound before she knew it. The boy shook the box a little, not quite spilling the candy out. It was beautiful Christmas candy, red pieces and yellow pieces, and some striped red and white. The boy said, "Only 10 cents, ma'am. 1 dime. Laura and Carrie, too, knew they could not have that candy. They were only looking at it. Suddenly, Ma opened her purse and counted out a nickel and 5 penny into the boy's hand. She took the box and gave it to Carrie. And the boy was gone on, Ma said, excusing herself after spending so much. After all, we must celebrate our first train ride. Grace was asleep, and Ma said that babies could not eat candy. Ma took only 1 piece, and Carrie came into the seat with Laura and Mary and divided the rest. Each had 2 pieces. They meant to eat one and save the other for next day, but some time after the first pieces were gone, Laura decided to taste her second one. Then Carrie tasted hers, and finally Mary gave in. They licked those pieces all away, little by little. They were still licking their fingers when the engine whistled long and loud. Then the car went more slowly and slowly. The backs of shanties were backward outside. All the people began to gather their things together and put on their hats, and then there was an awful jolting crash. The train stopped. It was noon. They'd reached Tracy. "I hope you girls haven't spoiled your dinner with that candy," Ma said. "We didn't bring any dinner, Ma," Carrie reminded her. Absently, Ma replied, "We're going to eat dinner in the hotel. Come, Laura. You and Mary be careful." And next, we will read End of the Rails. Thank you.